Good day, I'm Martin Gago with Market Radius Research. It's Wednesday, March the 1st, and we've got CEO Steve Dalton of Revolve Renewable Power joining us. Revolve is a developer of solar and wind and battery renewable power generation projects in the US and in Mexico. The company just released their December quarterly results, or that's their fiscal Q2 2023 results. And Steve is here to walk us through the quarter, so we've got a good idea of what's going on and how the business works. But please remember, this is neither recommendation nor investment advice. We're here to learn about the company. Steve, thanks a lot for joining us. And why don't you give us a quick overview on the quarter and some things to focus on there?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Good to talk to you again, Martin. Thanks for taking the time as always. I think, as I said in the news release that we put out there yesterday, I think that this quarter, or certainly the quarter we're reporting on, gives investors a kind of much clearer view, I guess, of the direction of travel that we're trying to bring the company. You have on the distributed generation side of the business, an increase in kind of that recurring revenue that we've consistently been talking about for the last kind of 6-9 months. It's obviously gone up quarter on quarter as we've brought on the Centrica business solutions projects that we acquired back in August. So we're thankfully starting to report kind of kilowatt hours on the clock, revenue generated off the back of that, which is great. And we're hoping that'll kind of continue as we go through the course of this year. We're also kind of providing an update on a couple of projects that we have under construction under that division. So we currently have 6.2 megawatts under construction through a CHP project and a battery storage project that we've announced previously to the market. So again, we're hoping that they will start to filter into our financial results as we go through the course of this year, and that revenue number and kind of gross profit number will continue to kind of move upwards, if you like. So really happy with how that business is going. We obviously have a big pipeline as well, which we've indicated has continued to increase, currently stands at just under 72 megawatts. Again, very similar projects to that project in Cancun that we announced back last September. You're looking at a range of different rooftop solar, battery storage, CHP projects in that pipeline, working very hard to get them converted into long-term power purchase agreements and obviously assets that we can start to construct. So distributed generation business looking good, starting to shape up very well, and I think you're seeing that in the financial results this year. And then on the utility scale side of things, just happened after the quarter end, but we obviously announced that big transaction for us with Engie, where we sold 2 projects in Arizona. That was a significant transaction for the company. Again, isn't really reflected in the quarter per se, but we just closed it after December year end. But you will start to see that now feature in our financials as you go forward. So huge amount happening on the business overall. Really happy with where we're going.
All right, and just so everybody's clear, you've got the distributed energy business, and then you've got the utility scale. Those are the 2 kind of segments of the business, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So in the distributed energy, you run, own, and operate the solar, the wind, the battery, the CHP, and just so CHP is combined heat power. That is another way of generating electricity. Yep. And then the heat that's generated off of that you own those projects and you sell the power that comes off of that, and you charge a fee for it, and you make monthly revenues to your customers selling that electricity on a month-to-month basis, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And for the projects that we have on the books at the moment, you're looking at contract tenors of kind of 8 years to 10 years. So these are kind of long-term fixed price contracts. And like you say, we're kind of selling energy to those industrial customers.
And then on the utility scale, that model is different, where you're developing, you find the land, you start permitting it and so forth. And then, like the deal that was just announced in January, you sell it off to a large partner who's going to do the large, that takes hundreds of millions of dollars to actually develop. They're going to develop it. You're kind of keeping a residual on it. And but you sell off the project to let someone do that heavy sort of financial lifting off of it after you've done the initial hard sort of work on bringing the project up to a large enough stage where it can start going into construction.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I mean, that's what we've done historically with those utility scale projects. Like, I think with the $2 million that we received from Engie up front, that brings our total revenue from our utility scale business up to over $19 million since we were set up. So like, there are significant amounts of money that you can generate if you're successful in developing those projects. We obviously done it before with a number of projects down in Mexico. I think it was important for us to get a deal done in the US. That was one of our targets that we laid out for this year in our investor presentation. Delighted to get it done pretty straight out of the gate, if you like, when January came around. And as I said, we'll kind of start to see the benefit of that financial wise anyway, as we go through the quarters.
And that $2 million, is that going to show up in your Q3, your March quarter, as revenue, or does that get sort of spread out, or when does that show up as hitting your income statement?
Yeah, we have to kind of go through the final accounting of it, obviously, and kind of get some guidance on as to how we reflect it. But I mean, the 2 million you would expect to definitely show up in the accounts. It's obviously reflective of some development value that we've created on the asset. We've obviously have sold 100% of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would expect it to, but that's still subject to kind of getting views from auditors and whatnot.
Okay, but effectively that's happening in the March quarter. That's going to happen.
I think the important thing is cash in the bank.
Yes. All right. Have you received the check? The cash?
Yes, we have. Yeah,
all right. Well, that's the big thing. Going back to the distributed power, you sold or generated 493 kilowatt hours in the December quarter, and then that generated $99,000 US dollars of revenues for you. That's basically how it worked.
Yep. In rough terms.
And then if you divide the two, that ends up with roughly 20 cents per kilowatt hour you sold the power for.
Yeah, it won't be exactly translatable because there's both rooftop solar and combined heat and power, and I think combined heat and power is a slightly different kind of business model in that you can get kind of availability based payments as well. So it doesn't translate directly across, but you're not too far from the mark in terms of that kind of price. It's generally kind of 20-25 cents, something around those kind of levels. And
you had $27,000, call it, of cost of sales. And the cost of sales, like when solar's up there, you don't have to give it diesel or anything to produce power. It's just getting the sun. You just send a guy there every month, sort of make sure dust isn't accumulating on the glass covering the solar panels, and that it's working. Like, what are the cost of goods sold on this?
Yeah, no, that's effectively it. And I mean, that's the beauty of kind of the distributed generation projects. There's not a whole lot of kind of management in terms of you're sending someone maybe once a month to go and check on the system. We obviously have remote access to the system as well, so you can kind of get errors and different kind of technical issues which might crop up that you can kind of be proactive about. But the cost of certainly maintaining rooftop solar is very low. CHP is obviously a bit more involved. You've got some gas engines in that case. But you're right, I mean, in general terms, the cost of sales reflects operating and maintenance.
All right. And on the revenue side of it, is that going to fluctuate much? You have fixed price terms on it. So the cost per kilowatt hour, or the revenue per kilowatt hour generated, is basically fixed. And is it just depending on, let's say on a solar, how sunny it is, or if it's a sunnier couple of months, you're going to generate a little bit of extra solar. If it's a little cloudy and so forth, it'll be a little bit less. Is that how that, until new projects come online, is that roughly what changes the revenue?
Yeah, exactly. That roughly. I mean, you'll always have some seasonality and variability when it comes to either solar or wind resource. Probably is going to be a bit harder to pull out of our financials as we go forward, because we've got new projects under construction which will add to the revenue line. But in general, yes, you would have some variability, but I think it'll be like, certainly where these rooftop solar projects are, they're based down in central Mexico, very good solar resource, and there will be some variability, but not huge swings, if you like, as you go through the
5-10% in that kind of a range.
Yeah, most likely.
All right. Okay. And just refresh us, are in this Q3 we're in right now, are new distributed generation projects going to be coming online?
I think we have certainly indicated that we would like to bring the battery storage project in Cancun online during this quarter. It might be closer towards the end of the quarter, so you may not see some benefit financially in terms of this year or this next quarter, if you like, reporting wise. Yeah, it's let's say coming towards the end of its, let's say, construction cycle. So within the next couple of months, you'll start to see that generating revenue.
Yeah. On the general expenses of the business, your operating expenses were, call it $250,000 in the quarter. Is that going to be pretty consistent going forward, or is there a lot of variability, or as you get bigger, that's going to increase a whole bunch?
It really does depend. I mean, a lot of that is obviously we have a certain corporate overhead, if you like, the cost of staff and everything else. That's going to stay reasonably the same going forward. We don't have any huge plans to expand the team greatly. I think as the business definitely grows, we will be taking on some more people, but that should more or less stay reasonably the same. I think on the development side, it does depend quarter on quarter, depending on what activities we're undertaking. So that will move around. Not really providing any guidance as to how it will. We obviously have a plan of work ahead of us on a number of projects, which we hope to achieve this year. So we'll just have to have to see how that pans out as each quarter goes by, if you like.
Yeah, and like that's on a $250,000 per quarter. So that's not substantial. You generate a gross profit of 74 grand. So you're not that far away. Would it be fair to say you're not that far away? You add on some new distributed generation products, you get closer and closer to sort of break even on an operating basis. And then you've got these bigger utility scale projects that throw in more sort of inconsistent or lumpy revenues and profits as they go forward.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Like as you look at where things stand today, we obviously have that recurring base from the existing projects. We have a couple of projects under construction, which will add to that. We've done this deal with Engie, which will add some either revenue or cost reimbursement or however that gets accounted for, but that's cash as well to help that side of things. And obviously there's a milestone payments linked to those two projects that we saw from Engie as well. So obviously if we can successfully bring those through, then certainly you're into a position where you would be hopefully break even or not too far off it. Again, we haven't given any kind of formal guidance around that, but that's certainly the intention. That's the aim of where we're looking to get to. All
right. Okay. Well, I think that kind of covers the highlights of the quarter. Is there anything else you want to add that we didn't sort of hit on for the quarter?
No, I think that's it. I mean, I think the key message for us is that recurring revenue piece, building on it with those assets under construction, obviously emphasizing the deal we've done with Engie. I'm not too sure if we kind of have managed to fully explain that to shareholders, but I think that was a pretty significant deal for us. And I guess the gist of it in the short term is you got a $2 million check, and there are future payments coming down as the project goes further, which you haven't been able to disclose fully. So it's a bit of a what's behind door number 2 here. It's going to come, but it'll be a few surprises along the way, but it's all upside. Yeah, exactly. I think what we have been able to do, obviously, we have indicated that it's within the range of what we had forecast in our investor presentation. Yeah. There is let's say a fairly clear example laid out in our investor deck as to exactly what not what a 1,250 megawatt project looks like, but we've laid it out for, I think it's a 200 megawatt project. So you can clearly go and kind of draw some comparisons, some parallels to kind of get a rough idea of what the valuation of those types of assets look like and what it would mean for a company like us. And I mean, there's significant numbers if you can deliver the project all the way through. So I definitely think we would consistently kind of remind shareholders and investors of that and to take a look at it. But the story around revenue, recurring revenue, new projects coming on continues to build, and we're definitely forecasting more of that as the year goes on. All right. And just type of news flow for the investors to expect over the next few months, maybe announce a new projects or maybe sell something else off, or what should we be keeping our eyes open for? Yeah, I think it'll be very similar to what we done last year. So if you look at particularly let's say the second half of last year, calendar year, if you like, we were announcing plenty of updates on the utility scale as projects move forward. We're certainly forecasting that for this year. The distributed generation side of things, I think we've clearly said we have this 72 odd megawatt portfolio there. A lot of projects in that. We would be hopeful of being successful with a number of those and making similar announcements to what we've done with the battery project down in Cancun. Obviously, as that Cancun project plus this other CHP project start to go through construction and get close to commissioning, we'll be updating announcements on that. So a lot going on, a lot of projects, a lot of positive stuff, working hard on getting more projects done. So I think in general terms, we'll be pretty active when it comes to news releases and updating shareholders as we move through some of these projects.
All right, Steve, thanks a lot. That's good. Congrats on the quarter and looking forward to seeing the news flow. Have a good day.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.